The Enfield Poltergeist, the case that shocked the world for 18 months. An 11-year-old girl became the target of forces that defied explanation and terrified an entire community. Late summer in 1977 brings an ordinary evening to an ordinary council house on Green Street in Enfield, a working-class suburb of North London. Peggy Hodgson, a single mother of 4, prepares her children for bed as she does every night. Margaret, Janet, Johnny, and Billy settle into their rooms. The house falls quiet. Then, just after midnight on August 30, Peggy wakes to a sound that freezes her in place. A heavy, deliberate shuffling coming from the girl's bedroom directly above her own. She climbs the stairs and pushes open the door. In the dim light, she sees her daughters sitting upright in their beds, eyes wide with fear, pointing at the heavy chest of drawers against the wall. As Peggy watches, the chest begins to move. Not a slight wobble or tremor, but a purposeful slide across the floor, scraping against the wood, traveling several feet away from the wall with no one touching it. Peggy rushes forward and shoves the chest back into place with all her strength. It moves again, the same deliberate motion, the same scraping sound, as if invisible hands are dragging it across the room. Peggy gathers her 4 children and flees the house. She pounds on the door of the neighbors, the Nottinghams, who take the terrified family inside and call the police. 2 officers arrive within 20 minutes. They enter the Hodgson home cautiously, searching each room for intruders or mechanical explanations. In the living room, one of the officers, a woman constable, observes a chair slide across the floor by itself. She stares at it, noting the way it moves in complete defiance of physics or logic. She files an official report that same night, documenting what she witnessed. The report becomes part of the public record. The events at Green Street, she writes, cannot be explained by conventional means. Over the following days, the activity inside the Hodgson home escalates with shocking speed. Toys fly across rooms with violent force, striking walls and shattering. Furniture moves repeatedly, tables, chairs, dressers, all sliding or tipping without human contact. Knocking sounds erupt from the floors, the walls, the ceilings, following complex patterns that seem to respond to questions. Peggy tries to maintain normalcy for her children, but the phenomena refuse to stop. Neighbors begin to hear the disturbances through the walls. Word spreads through the community. Someone contacts the Daily Mirror, and journalists arrive to investigate. One photographer captures an image of Janet, the 11-year-old daughter, apparently suspended in midair near the ceiling of her bedroom, her body horizontal, her face twisted in distress. The Society for Psychical Research, Britain's oldest and most respected paranormal investigation organization, sends 2 of its most experienced researchers to Green Street. Maurice Grosse, a businessman and inventor who recently lost his own daughter in a tragic car accident, arrives first. He is followed by Guy Lyon Playfair, a veteran investigator and author. Both men approach the case with skepticism tempered by open minds. What they encounter over the following weeks challenges everything they thought they understood about the limits of reality. The activity centers almost entirely on Janet Hodgson. She is an ordinary child by all accounts, shy, playful, with no history of psychological disturbance or behavioral problems. Yet inside the house on Green Street, something uses her as its focal point. Janet is thrown from her bed night after night, her body hurled across the room by forces that leave no physical trace. Her mattress undulates beneath her in waves, as if something beneath the fabric is trying to push through. Investigators document each incident meticulously. Maurice Grosse begins spending entire nights in the house, recording audio and taking photographs. Over the course of 18 months, he and Playfair document more than 2,000 separate paranormal events. Then the voices begin. Janet and her older sister Margaret start speaking in a voice that is not their own, a deep, rasping, masculine growl that seems to originate from somewhere beyond their vocal cords. The voice identifies itself as Bill Wilkins, an old man who claims to have lived and passed away in the house many years before. It speaks of sitting in a chair in the corner, of going blind, of perishing in the downstairs living room. Morris Gross investigates the claim and discovers that a man named Bill Wilkins did indeed live in the council house and met his end there. The details match what the voice described through Janet's mouth. Ed and Lorraine Warren hear about the Enfield case through international paranormal research networks. The American investigators, already well known for their work on cases like Amityville and Annabelle, travel across the Atlantic to witness the phenomena firsthand. When they arrive at Green Street, Lorraine Warren immediately senses what she describes as a powerful and malevolent presence within the walls. She tells Morris Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair that this is not a simple poltergeist case, not the result of unconscious psychokinetic energy from a troubled adolescent. She feels multiple entities in the house, with one dominant intelligence orchestrating the attacks. Ed Warren observes Janet closely, watching the way her body contorts, the way her voice changes, the way her eyes seem to lose focus when the phenomena intensify. He concludes that Janet is experiencing genuine demonic oppression, a targeted spiritual assault by an inhuman force. The sheer number of independent witnesses elevates the Enfield case beyond typical paranormal investigations. Police officers, journalists, neighbors, school officials, and researchers from multiple countries all observe the phenomena. A BBC crew arrives to film a segment and captures inexplicable events on camera. Neighbors report seeing Janet levitating through the window, her body floating near the ceiling while her siblings scream below. The phenomena are not isolated to moments when skeptics are absent. They occur in front of cameras, in front of strangers, in front of people who arrive determined to prove fraud. The entity grows bolder over time. Janet enters trance states that last for hours, speaking in the rasping voice of Bill Wilkins while investigators ask questions and record the responses. The voice knows details about the house that Janet could not possibly know. It describes the layout of rooms before renovations, the names of previous tenants, the exact location where Bill Wilkins sat in his final days. Researchers verify these details through public records and interviews with former neighbors. The voice also grows hostile, threatening the investigators, cursing them, warning them to leave. On multiple occasions, Janet is attacked, thrown violently against walls, her body contorting in ways that seem anatomically impossible. A curtain wraps itself around her throat one night, tightening until Morris Gross rushes forward and tears it away. Investigators begin to suffer as well. Morris Gross reports overwhelming feelings of dread and exhaustion after extended time in the house. Guy Lyon Playfair experiences disorientation and vivid nightmares. The entity, whatever it is, demonstrates intelligence, purpose, and a malicious awareness of those who challenge it. Janet is photographed levitating on multiple occasions. The images show her suspended in midair, sometimes near the ceiling, sometimes thrown across the room in mid-flight. Skeptics later claim she is simply jumping off the bed, but investigators note the horizontal position of her body, the height she reaches, and the witnesses who observe her floating motionless for several seconds before falling. The audio recordings of the Bill Wilkins voice remain some of the most disturbing evidence ever captured in paranormal research. The voice is too deep, too controlled, too knowledgeable to be the product of a child's mimicry. Audio analysis confirms that the voice originates from Janet's vocal cords, but produces frequencies and tones inconsistent with her age and physical structure. By late 1978, after 18 months of relentless activity, the phenomena begin to diminish. No exorcism is performed, no ritual banishes the entity. The events simply fade, gradually losing intensity until they stop altogether. Morris Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair theorize that the entity lost interest, that its purpose, whatever that was, had been fulfilled. Janet is briefly sent to a psychiatric facility when authorities grow concerned for her mental and physical health. Doctors find no evidence of psychosis, schizophrenia, or dissociative disorders. She is released and returns home. The voices do not return, the levitation ceases. The house on Green Street becomes quiet once more, Janet Hodgson, now an adult, has spoken publicly about her experiences. She maintains that the events were real, that something outside herself took control of her body, and that the trauma of those 18 months shaped the rest of her life. Maurice Grosse devoted years to researching and writing about the Enfield case, convinced until his own passing that what he witnessed was genuine and unexplainable by any known science. Guy Lyon Playfair published detailed accounts of the investigation, standing by his conclusions despite decades of skeptical criticism. The Enfield Poltergeist case produces more documented evidence than almost any other paranormal investigation in history. Audio recordings, photographs, video footage, police reports, and the sworn testimony of over 30 independent witnesses create a body of evidence that resists easy dismissal. Skeptics point to moments when Janet was caught bending spoons or making knocking sounds, suggesting the entire case was an elaborate hoax. Believers counter that even if some incidents were faked, perhaps by a frightened child seeking attention or trying to regain control, the vast majority of documented phenomena could not have been fabricated by an 11-year-old girl. The photographs, the voice recordings, the testimony of police officers and journalists, the physical evidence of furniture damage and inexplicable movements, all of it points to something beyond mundane explanation. Ed Warren calls Enfield the most evidenced paranormal case he encounters outside the United States. He tells colleagues that the case proves beyond reasonable doubt that the forces documented in American hauntings are not isolated to one culture or nation. They are a human phenomenon, appearing wherever people live, suffer, and struggle against the boundaries of the known world. The Enfield case becomes the basis for the Conjuring 2 in 2016, introducing a new generation to the story of Janet Hodgson and the entity that terrorized her family. Researchers continue to debate the case, dissecting the evidence, analyzing the recordings, searching for definitive proof or definitive debunking. But for those who lived through it, for Peggy and her children, for Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair, for the neighbors who heard the screams and saw the shadows, the Enfield Poltergeist remains undeniably, terrifyingly real. If you found this case compelling, subscribe to Vanishing Roads for more documented paranormal investigations from around the world. This story was created with AI assistance based on documented case files. All events reference real investigations and reported incidents.